Mr. President, I want to talk today about something that got overlooked, I think, late in the year as we passed the surface transportation bill, the highway bill. As you'll recall, it was called the Fix America's Surface Transportation Act, or the FAST Act. It wasn't very fast. I was glad to see the President sign the law last month. It's one of the things that people understand they can't do for themselves: defend the country, have a transportation system that works, take advantage of who we are as a nation, located in strategically as fine a place as you could be located to do business and create jobs and have opportunity all over the world. The FAST Act in my state would provide $5 billion to Missouri over the next 5 years to improve our roads, our bridges, our rail system. That's about the amount of money we'll send in over the next 5 years. So we're either slightly a donee state or slightly a donor state. We might be better off if we kept all the money, but that's not what's happening right now. We're certainly better off if we know what the highway program looks like for 5 years. An effective transportation plan is good for the country, but it's particularly good where I live. If you look at any map of river structure of the country, or any railroad map of the country, or any highway map of the country, a significant part of coming together of all three of those things, rail, water, highways, all happen right where we live. And because we are the hub of the railway, the highway, the water system, it's really important that we have a system that makes the most of that where we live. I told the Missouri General Assembly when I had a chance to speak to the House of Representatives in Jefferson City over the first week of the year that this is a competitive advantage for us, but we need to make the most of it. And when we've had the highway bill that we've had in the 5 years you and I have served in the Senate, Mr. President, nobody could rely on anything. Now, this is the first 5-year bill we've had in 17 years, but before 2009, we just ended a 4-year highway bill. And then, since 2009, we've had 37 short-term extensions of the highway bill. So if there's anything fast about the FAST Act, it certainly wasn't quickly getting to a highway bill that works. The longest of those 37 extensions was 2 years. I think the second longest may have been 6 months. And not only is that no way to build roads and bridges, but it's clearly no way for legislators to have an idea in our home states how to respond to that plan, because by the time you figure out how to respond to the plan, how you can maximize it to the advantage of your state or my state or anybody else's, how we could maximize that plan to our advantage, the plan's over with. By the time you have a legislative session and look at the plan and the State Department of Transportation analyzes it, you start talking about it, the 6-month extension of the highway bill was over. Or even the 2-year extension, there are all kinds of studies that indicate a significant loss of what you can buy with the money you're spending if the highway bill is 2 years or less. I think the discount's about 30% because people don't bid as competitively as they would bid to be part of those projects. They're not willing to move people to where a major project needs to occur. They can't buy the equipment and plan to depreciate it out, and so you wind up paying a lot more than you would have to pay. And that's where we've been since 2009. And the states have been in a place where they didn't have any way to maximize a federal program because the federal program was gone before they could really calculate how they could most take advantage of it. So I hope that now we do one of the things that really people expect the government to do. One of the reasons they pay the taxes, and one of the reasons the tax for transportation has always been pretty well received, is people think, okay, I pay a tax when I fill up my car with gasoline, fill up my car with diesel, fill up my truck with diesel, my truck with fuel. When I do that, I pay a tax, and then I use the roads, so that seems fairer to people than most taxes, but we haven't had a system that allowed us to make the most of that. You know, in our state, 22% of Missouri's major roads are considered now in poor condition. The American Society of Engineers gives us a C, and this is one of the areas where we would want to be an A. And if you're a C instead of an A, the average Missouri motorist pays about $400 more a year in extra maintenance because we're trying to maintain a system that has gotten in a poor condition. 44% of our highways are congested. Congestion costs motorists lots of money in just wasted fuel. You don't have to spend much time around Washington in a car to realize how much time you can waste in traffic, but we see that happening more and more all over the country. We have in our state more bridges than any other state, and they are among the worst conditions of the country, with 30% of our bridges rated as structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. There was just a Tiger Grant awarded to replace the Champ Clark Bridge across the Mississippi River that I believe was built in 1919. And if that bridge has to be shut down before it can be replaced or would have been shut down, the detour to get where that bridge gets you is 75 or 80 miles driving around to get where that bridge currently takes people. We have lots of bridges in our state that are county bridges. They're not state bridges. I talked to county commissioners. One of their principal concerns is, well, what about the fund that helps us with our off-system bridges? Senator Casey and I created a fund to do this in 2012. We added it to the 2012 highway bill. And since then, it's provided about $775 million annually to states. And out of that state fund, whenever you're part of the off-system road system, the state pays 85% of a bridge that the county otherwise, in most cases, wouldn't be able to replace. We have one county that I think has 4,000 people and 40 bridges. That's a lot of bridges for 4,000 people to try to be responsible for. It's our smallest county, and that's maybe a different debate, but they have 40 bridges. We have lots of bridges in our state. The county bridge system has about 50% of all the bridges we have in Missouri, and the bridge system, the highway system, critical to us if we want to compete. And as the middle of the country grows things and makes things, it's a great opportunity for us to get things not just onto the river system and onto the railway system all over the country and all over the world. Transportation really matters. The FAST Act, and I have a hard time saying the FAST Act without thinking how slow the FAST Act really was in getting passed. The FAST Act creates two freight-based programs that allow states to compete for funding for major projects. We need to figure out, in a world where we want to compete, how we can compete more effectively. How do you get things places that are made? How do you get things that are grown? How do you get things that are needing to be shipped? How do you get them places in a better way? In the life of this bill, the state of Missouri should receive about $150 million to look at those freight projects, because those projects and the effective use of how you get things places creates jobs. We see the Missouri Department of Transportation has already developed a state freight plan to encourage strategies. Now this bill makes that plan more of a reality. The Fast Track also includes some help for our nation's rail systems. I had a bill, the Track, Rail, and Infrastructure Network Act, that allows, when you're improving a railroad system, that you have the same kind of streamlining that we recently were able to provide for highway construction, where you don't get caught up on something that has to be needlessly litigated for long periods of time when in fact what you really need to be doing is getting that highway finished in the highway part of this bill, or have the expedited ability for these issues to go to the top of the list, to get resolved, so that people can get the things that they make where they want to get them. They can get the things they buy quicker than they would get them otherwise. They can get to work, they can get to school, they can get to the hospital when somebody is sick. And I mentioned that particularly. We just had floods in our state in the last few days. And for a while, Interstate 70, Interstate 44, Interstate 55 were all three closed. And there was a time when two of those were closed at the same time, and they were closed for 24, 36 hours. And it makes a difference in how people are able to live their lives. The Permitting Improvement Act that I co-sponsored was also included in the bill. This is a piece of legislation that Senator Portman and Senator McCaskill introduced that will now allow better coordination between deadline setting for permitting decisions, the same kind of thing for highways that we're also doing for railroads, to make this important transportation system work. Winston Churchill, once looking at the United States, said we were the best located country in the world, an ocean on either side, neighbors that we could deal with north and south, and the ability to get anywhere would be another addition to that location advantage we have. The FAST Act includes two important provisions to give relief to electricity providers. One is a law that creates emergency route working groups for electricity and other things, to where if you've got a vehicle that needs to get from Oklahoma to Joplin, Missouri after the tornado, you don't have to get it specially permitted and authorized to come across that state line in what's been declared an emergency. The same thing would have happened in recent days in several places in our state, close to a border, close to the equipment they need, but because of and the flood means there's an emergency. Well, now those vehicles can cross the state cross the state line without having the special permission that had to be received in the past. Secondly, the Grid Reliability Act I introduced with my Missouri colleague, Senator McCaskill. This just simply allows the reliability if you have two conflicting federal agencies, one saying you can only use that plant so much of the time, and another one saying we've got an electric emergency, you have to use every facility you've got to provide the electricity that's needed. That can now be done. So many committees of jurisdiction here, the Commerce Committee that I'm a member of, certainly the committee that is focused on infrastructure, focused on ports and other things that I haven't mentioned a lot, but really important. I've mentioned it other times on the floor of the Senate. This is one of the great accomplishments, I think, of the last Congress, or the first year of this Congress, that may easily go overlooked. But I can tell you that county officials all over America and state legislative bodies all over America are looking at this bill and figuring out how do we use this as a way to move our transportation system into the 21st century. How do we use this to help provide opportunity? How do we use this to help provide the kinds of jobs that provide the kind of pay that families need to live on and live the kind of life they would like to live? And so, Mr. President, I look forward to seeing this bill implemented. I think all of us need to watch carefully to be sure that we're making the most of one of the responsibilities of government, defending the country, having a transportation system that works, are both things that individuals and families can't do for themselves. And I believe the FAST Act gives us a better chance than we've had since 2009 to look at the future with a greater degree of certainty and to work in an area that is critically important for the country, but even more important for Missouri and others who live in the middle of these transportation networks where they come together.